Ancient African science further defined the uraeus, pineal or serpent in the head, brain, as a key to one's own individual godhood and unlimited powers. In Genesis 32:27-32, it was at the place named Peniel, pineal gland, that Jacob, a mental slave dwelling in ignorance, symbolic of the undeveloped unconscious, met the angel of God, mastership, infinite knowledge. During the wrestling bout which ensued, he ascended from his former state of lower consciousness and was transformed into Israel, higher self. It was at Peniel that Jacob saw God face to face, and his life was renewed. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Genesis 32:30. Heaven was believed to be in the head. Thus a higher level of consciousness was to be attained by utilizing the pineal gland to unlock the unconscious, affecting a harmonic relationship between self and environment, darkness-light. Striking knowledge of the importance of the mind, unconscious, symbols in mythology. Africans studied the mind and named it Nous. James, 1976. Africans studied the unconscious part of the mind and named it Amenta, or the underworld. Africans studied symbols and named them archetypes. Jocannon, 1970. McGinnis, 1973. The unconscious is the great internal reservoir of infinite knowledge. Assagioli, 1965. That each person has the potential to possess. It is the full knowledge of the operation and utilization of the universal hierarchy of energies. Africans also studied mythology, fables on an exoteric level, which contain hidden formulae on an esoteric level. Mythology provides a clue into the particular relationship a symbol or idea must establish with other related ideas before a synthesis can occur. Synthesis is the key to ascension. An example of a particular type of synthesis can be seen in the African myth of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, as well as in its Christian counterpart, that of Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. Osiris represents the masculine left brain cortical hemisphere, logic. Isis represents the feminine, right brain cortical hemisphere, intuition. The child horns was produced by the union or synthesis of Osiris and Isis, and exemplified a balance between feeling and logic. Human mythology began with the serpent, an archetypal polyglot image of God. The human race, having originated in Africa, migrated across the entire world. Each migratory wave carried with it a common form of serpent mythology. The book, Encircled Serpent, by M. Oldfield Howey, contains many records of the history of serpent mythology. From this book one can review several of the serpent myths. Thoth, also known as Khonsu, Tehuti, Etho, Thoth or Tooth, founded the first colonies in this country after the flood, and taught the Egyptian to worship Neph, the original spirit, pervading all creation under the symbol of a serpent. Thoth was symbolized as a serpent, and has been named Hermes Trismegistus by the Greeks and Mercury by the Romans. Howey, 1955. We many find him as Buddha in India, as Zoroaster in Persia, Osiris in Egypt, Thoth in Phoenicia, Africa, Hermes or Cadmus in Greece, and Odin in Scandinavia. Pharaohs, Phra or Aphra, is said to be compounded of Aphi, serpent, and Ra, the sun, from where they descended. Indian mythology centers around the Krishna, an incarnation of Vishnu, sun god, who went into the river Yamuna, home of the terrible serpent Kala, evil spirit with 1,000 heads, and engaged in great combat with the serpent. The serpent entwined about Krishna's body, but the divine child became so large that Kala had to release him, allowing Krishna to tear of the Hydra's heads one by one. In Buddhism, 2 dragons are fabled to have descended from the clouds to bathe the divine babe, Sakya Buddha, at his birth. One was sprouting warm water and the other cold. He was addressed by his disciples as Mahanago, or Great Naga Serpent. Even in the time of the Chinese pilgrims, Buddhists Shramanas were worshipping the Naga serpent and celebrating the ritual at Naga serpent temples. Among the Aztecs he was named Quetzalcoatl, the serpent, and was regarded as an incarnation of the serpent sun. The feathered serpent was his symbol. To this day, the Hopi Indians of Mexico symbol sees the sun as a serpent with its tail in its mouth. The Warramunga tribe of north-central Australia has conceived a huge mythological totem serpent, the sire of all snakes. It lives in a waterhole, and, offended, it may emerge to destroy human beings, so must be treated with great respect. The central theme of the serpent myths in cultures throughout the world reflects their common parent and central germ, the African serpent myth of Osiris. The sun god Ra was also named Osiris, and in African mythology was said to have suffered a cruel death on earth, but by his divine power rose again in a glorified body. This myth functioned to give the Egyptians their belief in resurrection. The serpent's periodical casting off of its old skin furnished an illustration of this allegory. Again, it is important to recall that Uraeus, the serpent, the pineal gland, is also named the Eye of Horus. It is important to recall that the pineal gland is in the midline between the left cortical hemisphere and the right cortical hemisphere. The developed pineal establishes a balance between the male and female parts of one's consciousness. Africans believe that the unlimited power of individual godhood occurs with one who sees God. In other words, new power and new life come about through the union of the masculine, Shiva or Anima, and the feminine, Shakti or Animus principles. African science is infinite, a product of thousands of years of study by highly advanced African scientists, each operative at the Godhead level.